The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Geneva, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast with limited commercials. Now, here's host Dom Geneva.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. This show today is going to be on the radio, and is going to be a Zoom YouTube of this that's placed on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com. And the reason for this is that I have like a group of very distinguished gentlemen here, three gentlemen, and I heard one time that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I got to tell you, I am not the smartest person in this room. We have three very distinguished individuals, and I'm going to introduce them by a little bit of what they do. And I think we'll have to do this alphabetically. So Jack Allocco, that's an easy one. Jack is a inductee of the Rochester Music Hall of Fame, but also he has it's 11 Emmys, is it?
That's it.
That's it so
That's
far.
it.
He lives in LA, which I appreciate you getting up early in the morning to be on the show. And I have to tell you, Jack is a consummate professional. He has done a great deal of work, obviously, in LA, music, producing music, creating music, conducting music. I saw him perform at the Centennial for Nazareth. And how many people do you conduct on stage, Jack?
80-piece orchestra and an 80-piece choir.
And,
160.
and you composed that production, right?
Yes, I did.
I have to tell you, being a marketing guy, I take a look at things and I go, when I see a wow, it's really kind of cool. I think everybody agrees with that. When you go someplace and you go, man, I can't believe that was that good. That is like the holy grail of engagement entertainment. And Jack, it's just absolutely spectacular. And now I have, let's see, Springut, Pilato comes before, Piba comes before S, right? QRS, PQRS. So the next one is Bruce Pilato. Now, Bruce, local guy. Well, all three guys are local guys. But the thing about Bruce is that Bruce was my advertising rep years ago when I had a car dealership, and I didn't know he had a second life. Now, Bruce has been involved in the music business for an awful long time. He's interviewed three of the four Beatles. He has more stories and background information than you can shake a stick at. He is a producer. As far as I know, you don't perform any instruments, right?
Well, I play a bunch, but I don't perform. No, I made a decision very early in life. I want to be behind the glass, not in front of it.
And he's one of these guys that is like you're like the Forrest Gump of entertainment.
Oh.
If there's something that's happened, you've been there. It's really kind of cool. And primarily, so Jack is dealing with stuff, on television mainly, and Bruce is dealing with performances in theaters and whatever. And we have somebody here, Jeff Springut. Now, Jeff Springut, I would say, if anything, and not to say something that I wouldn't say about these other guys, but this guy's a mensch. This guy is a mensch. Well, the story about you throwing you two out of your club. I'm going to give you the short story. So you had the Red Creek. It was Red Creek. The last was Inn, right? Was it Red Creek?
It started out as the Red Creek Inn, correct? Then it became Red Creek, and then it became the Creek because we were there for so long. Everybody knew what it was.
Well, in short form, tell the story about throwing out YouTube. That's a mensch. I really do
I
think.
don't know if that was so menschy. If you ask John Scher, whose show it was, uh, I don't know if he totally agree with that. It's not a story that I'm fond of telling, but it has gotten quite a bit of a reputation for me. I guess the mensch part that you're referring to is that I was true to my regular customers.
Right,
And
right.
the short story is that the band was about 4 hours late coming in to set up and sound check. And I had explained to them through what we call an advance that the Red Creek had a lunch hour and a dinner hour and a happy hour. And there was a window of a few hours in the middle of the afternoon. They were late and they wanted the room cleared for sound check. The band was set up on stage. The band was in the parking lot in their van, or I guess they were driving around a van at that time. And the road manager said, look, we need the whole room cleared for sound check, which we understand how that goes. I said, sure. We moved by this time, it's almost 6 o'clock. The show was going to start at 7:30, something like that. And I said, okay, we moved about 80 people from the music room to the dining room on the other side of the building. And I said, there's those two women up there on the balcony. They're my regular customers. They come in, they work at the bank down the street. They come in every day at about 4 o'clock and drink their
Presbyterians, you call them.
there you go. That's what I was trying to think of. Presbyterians. And I said, it could be you two, you three, you and me, baby. They don't give a darn about the band. And on top of that, you're going to play two chords on the guitar. It's going to be so loud that they're going to leave. And the guy looks at me and he puts his hands on his hips and he looks up. He's a little shorter than I am. And he goes, and he had been pestering me. Let me preface this, but he had been in my face since they walked in the door. He was pushing every one of my buttons that he could. And we tried to make the bands comfortable while we're there. Nothing was right for this guy. So he puts his hands on his hips and he looks up and says, everybody out or we don't play. And fortunately, there's a fellow who I think uh, everybody knows, John Muirs, who did some work at the Blue Cross Arena, and he was the John Scher's man on the scene. And I looked at this guy without blinking an eye, and I said, not John, but the tour manager. And I said, see ya. And that was it. So they packed up all their stuff and walked away. And we had to give everybody, it was a sold out show. We had to give everybody back their money. It was $13.50 a ticket. I remember that for some reason.
Uh,
And that was that. And the band remembers it. They've
yeah.
written about it in their
They've written
book,
the
one of
book.
their books.
Right, the biography, So,
And
so now you're doing, and we'll talk about a little bit about this later. You are doing a lot of things for the community, festivals and presentations. So you have a lot of stuff coming up. We will talk about this at the end of the show, but just give a little eyewash on a couple of things that are coming up.
well, I've always been involved with high profile community events here in town. My wife and I produced the Park Avenue Summer Art Festival for 22 years. We gave it up the year before COVID. It just got to be a little tedious for us. I've worked on Party in the Park, where I'm sitting in the RV right now for a show tonight. I've done this on and off for the past 20 years. And I produced the Lilac Festival for, I think, 11 or 12 years and worked on it 3 or 4 years prior to taking it over. So we get involved in different community events, most of which are high profile community events. So we carved
Yeah.
out a niche for those kind of things.
And one of the things I forgot to mention, but Bruce, you were the original producer of the Rochester Music Hall of Fame presentations, right?
I did the first eight. Yeah. First
Yeah,
8 years. Yeah.
And did
yeah.
a great
It-
job too.
Oh
it
yeah, yeah,
was-
yeah.
that was for somebody. Look, I'll be the first to admit I am not a concert promoter. I mean, I've put on a few shows,
Mhm.
but I don't have the expertise of somebody like Jeff, and I probably don't have the patience of somebody like uh, Mr. Allocco there, working with 160 college kids. But I have to tell you that was it was thrilling, and especially when interesting things happen, like things would fall in my lap. I talked to one artist, he knew somebody else, he knew somebody else. The next thing I know, I got Paul Schaefer putting together most of the original Blood, Sweat, and Tears with David Clayton Thomas. I got, Paul Simon showing up unannounced, to play with Steve Gadd and Tony Levin. So there was some real highlights for me in that show, and so many great people in Rochester that have never really been glorified or in any way congratulated for what they did. I mean, Jeff Springut is a perfect example. I mean, all the great music. I was just about to tell him before we went live with this that I saw Muddy Waters there, and I was still doing my journalism thing, and I went backstage to interview Muddy, and he was very nice, and I knew I was only going to get like 10 minutes with him, and he had pink curlers in his hair. I don't know if you remember that,
I
Jeff,
do
but
not.
yeah, he had his hair in curlers, and they were pink curlers, and I said, wow, I said, you really put a lot of energy into getting your hair to look right. And he goes, I have to looks good for the woman folk. So,
Amen.
so a lot of great memories like that.
One of the reasons I'm doing this is I'm trying to I think that that music is very important. It makes us human. The bird sings a song. People create songs, and the thing is that I do have this website, or more accurately a Facebook um, group, and it's called the Rochester Music Mafia. And it's supposed to be, for the regular work and guys that are playing the gigs every weekend and whatever, and to exchange some ideas for them and connect ticket buyers with people that are performing. And you three guys, the questions I have, like I said, as a non-combatant, if you were to give advice to people, what makes a good performance? I mean, Jack, we're going to get to a little bit of a philosophical discussion here, but what are you looking to do? What's the most important thing? And the other thing I want to start talking about a little bit is this incredible polarization has worked its way into the music business, and in some cases, it's got to affect your ticket sales, and sometimes it doesn't. It's like if you're going to the Park Avenue Fest, I mean, nobody cares what you said about Trump. Okay, but if you're trying to garner tickets or listeners like Jimmy Kimmel or whatever, and you decide to be completely against Trump, then that's probably going to affect your ticket sales. So, what's important, Jack, when somebody's looking to gain an audience?
Well, I think primarily uh, we're in the business of entertainment. I think people like to be entertained, not lectured. I don't think anybody cares what I think about anything, actually. So it's very easy for me to stay out of it. But I think primarily you have to entertain people. I think they're looking for a diversion from their normal life, from everyday things. And I always considered, being on a stage is akin to being at church. I mean, I think it's sacred ground. I think you're up there, you have a responsibility to entertain those people, to not bore them, to not, in my humble opinion, I don't express any opinions. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what I think about a lot of things, but I'm there to entertain if I can. Um, Maybe make them happy for the amount of time I'm up there. Um, Inspire them if I can. I love to give musicians a forum for doing what they do. I do a lot of things with orchestra, and I really enjoy that because it's a large ensemble usually, and they get to perform, they get to do what they do. And I have great respect for entertainers, and I think I think again that's the business we're in. I think we should entertain.
Well, and I think you make a very salient point. I mean, and in Rochester, I think we have an example of that in Kodak. Every once in a while I get a chance to talk to a group of students, and I say, well, they thought their business was pictures on pieces of paper. No, it wasn't. that wasn't their business. Their business is imaging. If they understood what their business was, it's like there was an article written years ago. It's called "Marketing Myopia," saying that the railroads are going to go out of business because they think their business is only railroading. They should diversify themselves into whatever their business was moving freight. So, Bruce, I'll go to you. What makes a good performance?
Passion. I think, you have to love what you're doing. You have to believe in what you're doing, and you have to understand that no matter how dull the crowd might be or how sparse they might be, maybe if you didn't sell the place out and you only got half a house or whatever, there's still people in that audience that are hearing you for the first time.
Mm.
And you have one chance to make, a good, a first good impression. And that's why I really respect the artists that I work with, because they give it 110%, no matter who's in the audience, no matter, what they're doing. Fortunately, my guys, they're not stand-up comedians. They don't get heckled. So, that's pretty good. But, they'll play an amazing song and they'll expect a thunderous applause, and sometimes it's just kind of muted. It's like, what happened? They didn't get it. Well, maybe it was a little too complicated for them and sent them off in a different direction. But most of my guys do it, and they get along great, and they win the people over. There are some people who, in my opinion, are pretty selfish, and these are stars that have a huge amount of hits. And an example might be Bob Dylan, and they just won't play them. They just want to play what they're into that day, or whatever. And I remember I reviewed a Neil Young show at Darien Lake, right around the time he did This Blues for You or something like that. He had Booker T and the MGs in his band, backing him up, and he didn't play any of his hits. He just played all this kind of R&B
Mhm.
stuff. And it was an expensive ticket back then. It was like 35 or 40 bucks. I forgot what it was. I mean, it's cheap by today's standards. But a lot of people, you could tell they walked out of there very disappointed. He played one acoustic song he played after the Gold Rush on a piano, I think it was. And that was the only song he played that people knew. And I just said, if you're going to do that, you should charge $5. You should charge $5 or $8 if you're not going to play anything that people want to hear. And I understand every artist has a new album and they want to focus on the new album. And I've always told my guys, look, just do 3 of the songs from the new album in the middle of the show. There will be
Right.
people getting up to take a pee and to buy a beer. But you know what? You'll get it out of your system, and the rest of the show they'll be rocking. And we've kind of had to do that. I don't know, maybe Jeff, have you ever had to reprimand an artist because they didn't play anything that people knew?
Um, I, you know, I I go a little the other route. We just presented Bruce Hornsby a month or so ago in town,
Yeah.
and we advertised it as Bruce Hornsby and Why Music. And Why Music was this acoustic classical group that he had heard, that he fell in love with and wanted to do. He wrote some songs, he played some of their songs, and people bought tickets, and the show did pretty well. And he played 3 or 4 of the Grateful Dead songs. People came to hear Bruce Hornsby in the Range. There's no question about it. And the music was great. And he disappointed a lot of people, but he advanced it as something else, a different project. And some people knew what they were getting into. I think when an artist surprises, I'm trying to think of all the people we've played, whether it was Warren Zevon or Joe Jackson when he was first getting going, or we even had David Crosby one night, and he played all the hits. I think he just got out of jail at the time, and he just wanted to play, and it was a great band. Matter of fact, the fellow who helped me book that show was a bass player named Tony Saunders, who was Merle Saunders' son, and he called me up out of the blue on the payphone at the Red Creek and said, "Jeff, it's Tony Saunders. I got him on the road with Crosby, and he's looking for some dates." I go, "Tony, which Crosby?" And he said, David Crosby. I go, "Oh, well, okay." And anything he wanted to do in that situation, in that environment, I think, when you get to be stars, I mean, he was a star, but sometimes I think the majority of the people that I've been dealing with over the years, people, and especially in a small environment like the Red Creek, they didn't get to hear everything they wanted to hear, but the guy put on a good show or the band put on a good show. And you're at their mercy. I mean, one thing I've learned over the years in that regard, they're performers. They do what they want to do, and let the judgment fall on them after the show. If people didn't like it or didn't like the selection of tunes, I've been to a number of Bob Dylan songs. Uh, Fortunately, most of them he has taken the marbles out of his mouth because half the time you can't understand what he's singing.
Everything.
But he's Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
And okay, I don't hear the songs that I want to hear, but
Well, one of the things that my background is marketing. I know a little bit about this stuff. I have an MBA in marketing actually, and one of the things you got to be careful with. And I think it's an Arab proverb. There's no amount of sugar that makes up for poison. Okay, so if you have a problem with the audio, I don't care how good the performance is. You have to hear the audio. That's what you're there for. The other thing is this cultural thing that you're talking about. Now, when I buy a ticket, and it's I have a very long memory. This goes back to like 1972. Okay, so we had Todd Rundgren come to St. Bonaventure's. Oh, Todd Rundgren, and he wouldn't sing "Hello, It's Me." How small is your soul that you can't say, well, I've done that before. Okay, I got that. I got that. But I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for hello, it's me. Play the damn thing. I mean, and if you want to introduce other things to listen to, say, hey, by the way, this is the new stuff I'm coming out with and listen to this. I got that. But you got to give, it's like selling a car. You got to give them a car that starts first, before they talk about the rest of the features on the car. I mean, the car's got to move. Your audio's got to be okay. Your seating's got to be comfortable, or at least semi comfortable. Now, one of the things I want to talk to you guys about is how things have really, really changed. I mean, now they're selling out these stadiums with all these pyrotechnics, and now I guess it's a requirement that you be floating around in a butterfly or a car 50 feet off the audience and the stage, and floating around, and what the heck, give me some, give me some. You say entertainment. I mean, it's crazy. And the ticket prices. I mean, what are these Taylor tickets going for? It's like a mortgage. Jack, give me a little bit of an idea of what your thoughts is about this stuff.
Well, yeah, I guess, and I'm probably not one to speak on the record business because it's not really my lane, but I guess there's not a lot of money to be made anymore selling records. So performances are paramount for a lot of artists. That's where they make a living. And I'm told they make more money selling T-shirts than they do selling records at these venues. Merchandise is a big deal, I guess. So the business model has shifted. And I know a lot of my friends are on the road right now in different things. My neighbor is in Stone Temple Pilots. He left today. He's playing with Aerosmith. Joe Perry and Robert DeLeo. They're touring. Anyway, they're out there making a living, I guess, so to speak. So there's that's changed. Yeah, I mean, it's very expensive, I guess, to go to a high profile artist. But again, I think it still comes down to some kind of communication with the audience, what Bruce was saying. If you can move people, if you can make them feel something. I mean, one of the best experiences I've had, I was recording in London with a large orchestra, and I had a piece of music I was quite fond of. And I was hoping it would go well. Anyway, I recorded the piece. The piece. I went in the booth, and there were people that had tears in their eyes, and I thought, damn, that worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's one of the moments that stand
yeah,
out to me. I mean, I can actually make people cry. And
yeah,
I thought, well, that's cool. So
yeah.
that kind of communication, I think is,
Yeah.
I would hope most artists would strive for,
Yeah.
to actually
Yeah.
create something that affects somebody,
Yeah.
hopefully positively, So
Yeah.
that's what I think.
Yeah, I get it. I'm going to liken this back to when I was a car dealer. Now, I didn't have an agency. I acted as my own agency, and the concept that you're talking about in my mind was the between impressions and engagement. Okay, if you can engage somebody, they will come back again and again. And if you touch somebody, that makes a big difference. And like I said, in marketing, it's like, well, how many impressions do you have? Well, it's not impressions, and impressions are not something that is going to necessarily last, but engagement will last. It's the difference between having apple trees and harvesting apples, or selling the firewood from the trees. I mean, that's the way I look at it. So that's a very salient point. Now, Bruce, this is more in your wheelhouse, records and how things have changed, and the stadium stuff like that. Why don't you
Well,
comment about this, if you would?
there's a real change in the music industry because of what Jack was saying with the lack of income from records. But what's interesting is that you've got the superstar guys. You've got Beyonce and Paul McCartney and these huge artists that are going out there and they're getting, I don't know. I mean, even the Grateful Dead now are getting huge money for their tickets. I mean, McCartney's tickets now, I don't think there was anything in the nosebleeds under $200, and the good seats were over $1,000 on this tour that he's got. And I get it. He's 83. It's everybody's whispering it's the last time you'll get a chance to see a Beatle and all that kind of stuff. Okay. The Stones have been saying that for 30 years. But the problem of it is if they put their tickets on sale 9 months before the show,
Hmm.
Christmas time for a show that's going to happen in August, let's say, they're sucking a lot of money out of the marketplace. Because if you want
Mm.
your wife and your two teenage kids to be in person at a Beatle related show or a Stones related show, you want to say, look, this is the music that changed my generation's life. You guys need to experience. And I've done it. I've taken all my kids to those kinds of shows. Um, you're going through like, a couple of grand.
Hmm.
Okay. Now you got all these other bands that are touring that are not charging that kind of money, but maybe they're charging, I don't know, $100 a ticket or something, or $80 a ticket. Um, they're going to say, well, we can't go to this one, and this one, and that one because we're going to see Paul McCartney or U2 or Beyonce or whatever. Taylor Swift is a perfect example. I mean, $2,000 for a Taylor Swift ticket. I mean, where else, what other shows are you going to that year? I mean, so we're seeing that. That's why, the artists I work with, I kind of found you kind of got to be under 100 grand for your show. You got to be in that like 50 to $70,000 range if you want to do a tour of 40 or 50 shows. Okay. If you want to charge $200,000, there are a lot of bands like the Black Keys are an example. There are a lot of bands that had to cancel their arena tours because they just couldn't sell the tickets. And it's
Hmm.
probably because the Stones and everybody else had sucked that
Yeah.
that level of demographic. It sucked their money out of the bank, and it's not there anymore. So we kind of got to look at that. So it seems like the younger up and coming bands that are charging a $20 ticket, they're working all the time. And the classic rock guys that can keep it under 100 grand, they're working pretty steady. But those bands that are between 100 grand and 500,000, I think they're having trouble, but I could be wrong. Jeff, maybe you could correct me on that.
Well, you guys are all in the lofty arenas, what you're talking about, compared to what we do here in Rochester. We're on the grassroots, boots on the ground level, where we're doing Party in the Park. We do 4 to 5,000 people every Thursday night. They pay $7 because the city subsidizes it. We're real fortunate in Rochester. And we've got all, for the most part, national touring acts who maybe in a year or a year and a half are going to bubble up and their tickets are going to be $50 to $75.
Hmm.
And getting back to your original question, Tom, about what drives, is there a conflict between the world we're living in and what happens on stage at some of the shows? And going back to how Jack answered it, we're in the entertainment business. People come to our shows and to see Jack and to see the bands that Bruce is talking about, no matter how much you're paying for a ticket, to leave your cares behind. No one's
Hmm.
worried about the government. It's not affecting our tickets yet because people want to go be entertained. That's for 28 years. That's why people came to the Creek. You could come to the Creek and hear a good band. You might not know who a band was, but we had a reputation for presenting good quality original entertainment. We were the guys that said when disco came out, we said disco sucks. We're not, we didn't do cover bands. We
Yeah.
had Orleans playing when they first came out. I mean, Bonnie Raitt used to come and sit in. Uh, and so people want to be entertained and they want to forget about what they were what bothered them in their daily routines in their daily world, and that's what keeps us going. We've got a show next week
Yeah.
with Shamar Ale out of New Orleans and Andy Frasco, and it's all original music, and these guys are the epitome, I think, of entertainers.
Hmm.
And they engage the audience and they get the audience dancing.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. And that's why I've enjoyed a certain level of success over the years because we've always presented different styles of music, jazz, blues, rock and roll. The Red Hot Chili Peppers played the Red Creek and Greg Allman played the Red Creek and 300 people packed the place. And a lot of people came to hear bands. Joe Jackson, the first time he played to 75 people. But you would think that he was playing into a 10,000 seat arena. His show was so professional. Gil Scott Heron the same way. So and that's the experience that we had. So, people come to escape a little bit and enjoy themselves. And whatever price tickets they want to play, if they pay $200 for Taylor Swift or $2,000, well, come to Party in the Park and see a Taylor Swift cover band, and it's just as good for $7. And we'll do 5,000 people. So
Yeah.
choose your weapons.
Jeff, I was at the Joe Jackson show and it was extraordinary. And
Stunning.
2 weeks later, I saw Brian Adams in your room. And I mean, the guy's playing arenas. So, uh, it's Rochester's lucky because we've been
Oh yeah.
and you guys know that we're kind of a routing. We might get a lot of great shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday because they're on their way to New York City for the weekend.
Hmm.
And Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse really benefit from that. But I don't know. I mean,
In the theater, they call that playing Altoona, right? You play Altoona before you go to Broadway.
yeah,
Right.
That's
yeah,
it.
there you
You know,
go.
the funny thing, something you said before, I have to laugh. It's kind of sad, but I still have to laugh at this. Is that you were talking about? Well, you go see Paul McCartney while he's still alive. I had tickets to Gordon Lightfoot, and he up and died. So yeah, that's not an unreasonable thought. These guys are getting old, but the energy of them. We saw at CMAC, we saw your buddy Ringo, with his All Stars, and it's just. I mean, these guys don't need it for the money. I mean, they don't need it for the money. The thing that I see, I'm gonna say something about some local artists. I've seen some local artists that have been posting online very I know what the word is to say without being a pejorative about it, but their political views. They are stating their political views, how much they hate this or how much they hate that. And the thing is that what I look at, can you survive on that? Johnny Carson did it. There's a Mike Wallace interview with Johnny Carson from years and years ago, and Johnny Carson is like, why would I do that? Why would I insult half the people that come buy tickets from me? And I'm just wondering, and I don't know even if you guys have an answer for that. I mean, I would. When I was selling cars, Republicans buy cars from me and Democrats buy cars from me. As long as their money is green, I don't care, and I'm not going to go on a rant saying that I hate this or I hate that. But it seems to be common these days. With the with you got the Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and everything, and what you're doing is that, like, if and it's like Johnny Carson says, if you could attract everybody, why would you want to exclude anybody? So give me a little bit of your thoughts on this thing. I mean, is it is it I don't know. What do you think about this culturally?
I,
Jack.
I can tell you what I think real quick.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
think
Go ahead.
I,
It
I
doesn't
think
mean it's much.
everybody, well, I think everybody makes their own choices. And those are choices that those particular entertainers make. And jolly good luck to them. They made a decision. They'd rather be on a stump about that or in addition to their music and their performance, no matter what the result. So, what you do on stage, I've had people perform who have had opportunities to be very, very successful, and yet they work into their performance. I'm thinking some popular local groups who have, I'll remain nameless, but they all of a sudden want to use their presence on the stage to voice their political opinions. And sometimes, and without, I'd say it put the audience off in more times than not. And that's a decision they want to make. And
Yeah.
I would say something to their agent or their manager. I say, look, if I'm hiring them to do what they do best in terms of entertaining people.
Hmm.
And if you want to come to a political rally and voice your opinion as a well-known performer, that's great. But whether it's the Lilac Festival, which we produced for 15 years, and we would have probably 70 different groups there, people are coming to be entertained. If they want to
Hmm.
go to a political rally, let them go. That's good. So it's up to the individual, and you can't criticize what people believe in, but there's a time and place for everything. And if they decide they want to if Neil Young gets on stage at Madison Square Garden and makes an outright thing, I mean, people are doing that now. I mean, people go and
Hmm.
Springsteen's doing it because they feel so passionate about the topic matter at hand. Well, like you say, half the people may not like that and they may not come again. But that's up to the performer. We don't have
Yeah.
any control of what the performer sings. I don't give the performer a set list and say, these are the songs I'd like to hear. Bob Dylan came in one night to the Red Creek to watch Robert Lockwood Jr. And I said, Bob, are you going to sit in with? I happen to be able to sit. I got past his bodyguards, and I said, Bob, what do you think about sitting in with him? Because they were both enamored with one another. And he said to me, I can't play anything he's not playing. And I said, yeah, Bob, but for the folks back home, but we chuckled a little bit and that was it. But they do what they want to do. They're performers, they're artists, and that's that. That's all. That's what I think about it. Jack?
Well, again, to my marketing 101 from years ago, you're talking about niche or niche marketing. If you can survive on that niche, then that's fine. It's like, not everybody can afford or wants a BMW. That's a particular buyer. But if you don't have enough population to support that, well, that's a different story. And then, a performer can't complain if people, the thing is about this is that, it's Yogi Berra's statement. He says, if nobody comes to the stadium, nobody's going to stop them. It's like you don't know what you're losing. You don't know what somebody who might have bought tickets from you. And the other thing is the residual of that. I take a look at. I take a look at it's my Apple analogy again. If you have a performance and you experience that and you don't like that, well, then you're not coming back to the next one because you figure you're going to get the same. You're going to get the same of the same. It's like my bugaboo is the technical part of the show. If the microphones don't work and they don't work the next year, and you're just not coming back. I don't care how good the show is. If it's not, if the lights turn out in the middle of the show, if you have some other problem, if the venue isn't comfortable, they're just not coming back next year. And that's why you got to build that's the key of building an audience. Now, the other thing, the times have changed. We used to get our music different ways. We used to get our entertainment different ways. I was talking to Jack yesterday. Johnny Carson, you'd watch Johnny Carson at night. you'd listen to the whole thing. You know, the station would sign off, and everybody was talking about Johnny Carson the next day. You know, now you're getting your music in so many different ways. You're getting your entertainment in so much different ways. It seems like things are getting really disjointed too, aren't they?
Well, um, one of the things that I talk about in the class I teach at the University of Rochester is the way it's shifted in the business. It used to be a musician's career, a popular musician. I'm not talking about a classical musician or a jazz musician, but a popular musician's career was usually based around the record release of that time. New album coming out, you shoot the videos, you do MTV, you go out on tour, and it's all to sell the records. Yes, you want to make money on the shows and sell merch and all that, but the big thing was get that album to number one, get it on the Grammys, whatever. Okay, now that's gone. Now an artist's career is based around his touring. It's all how many gigs can I get? How much competition is there? People talk about the tribute bands, right? They say, wow, did you see this Chicago tribute or this Eagles tribute or the Fleetwood Mac tribute? Now some of these tribute bands, and one of the agency I work with, they have three or four of the big ones. They're making 25, 30 grand a night, these tribute bands. And it's like, how did that happen? Well, I'll tell you how it happened. That was a direct result of COVID because these
Ah.
artists were not going to put their crews and all the money they have to spend to do a national tour on the line, only to find out that the drum tech got COVID and they have to cancel the whole thing. Okay, and it happened to Ringo Starr twice. He canceled two times on a tour because one crew guy got COVID and exposed everybody else.
Hmm.
So what ended up happening is a lot of the national bands said, "I'm not coming in." The European guys couldn't come in because you couldn't get into the country, even if you had a work visa. You couldn't get in when COVID was happening unless you had a special permit, which we had to get for the ELP group that I do. And the one thing is finally that started fading out. Now the tribute bands, they've kind of calmed down a little bit. They're not taking away as much money from the national acts anymore because the national acts are all out touring again. So it's really interesting to see how the economics of everything changes
Hmm.
based on what's going on in society.
You know, you just mentioned something that maybe is a little bit off the wall question is that, how is this thing with this immigration thing affected the business? I mean, Jack, there's so much stuff going on in California. Out here, we have no idea what the heck's going on. Is this affecting the entertainment business at all? I mean, obviously, if you have a farm or a hotel or whatever, there are a lot of undocumented workers there, and that's a problem. Has it gotten to the point where in the entertainment business out there has affected you at all?
Well, excuse me, I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm primarily at CBS television,
Hmm.
and you go through numerous security checks, all kinds of stuff just to get in the building. You'd be amazed. They've actually had some incidents in the past. Somebody walks in with a gun or some crazy stuff at CBS television. But so I think there's no, I don't particularly see it there. Those people are fundamentally union kind of
Yep.
people that go through all kinds of checks and so on. No, I don't see it at all in my universe. No, now I live in I live in a nice area. I live in a nice neighborhood. Let me put it that way. I live in a nice neighborhood.
Well, fire is
Well,
it?
we got yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
well, actually, where I live is very similar to the Palisades in topography.
Hmm.
Lots of trees, lots of canyons. We're scared to death of fire over here. And actually, lately, a lot of my neighbors are getting their homeowners insurance canceled. They just won't renew
Ooh,
it. They won't renew it.
ooh, ooh.
State Farm is trying to get out of California, period. They just renewed me, and I don't know why. I have no idea why they renewed me, but they did.
They
And
like
so,
your
yeah, it's
music,
it's
Jack.
a big concern. And then we have slides. We have slides going into the ocean on one side here and fire on the other side. Yeah, it's a concern. It's a
Yeah,
concern.
and you're a Rochester guy. You probably would rather have the lake effect snow, right?
Oh yeah.
It pales in comparison. Now, Bruce,
Well,
this thing with the I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, no, no. I was going to say over here, they say, well, New York, well, it's going to get hit by a meteor. Haven't you heard? No, I didn't know that. So
No, no,
they always have something. They have
no,
something.
no, our taxes are going to kill us. That's what it's going to do.
Yeah.
It's just the taxes. Now, Bruce, you've had some not issues with like ice or something like that, but
Yeah, we're going through trouble
getting
right
people,
now
yeah.
because I have this show with Emerson, Lake and Palmer where the two guys that passed away are on screens from the Royal Albert Hall, and we have separate audio for them, and then we have the uh, Carl and his two musicians live on stage, and they all play together. Well, I got three guys that are British that I have to every 3 years get a work visa. Never been a problem. Carl Palmer started with the Crazy World of Arthur Brown, then he did ELP, and then he did Asia. He's been getting work visas he's had them for the last 50 years. They usually take about 3 to 4 weeks. And most years you could get one between $3,000 and $5,000 for a group, depending on whether you're hired an immigration attorney or not. We did one in 2022, cost about 4 grand. We got it in 3 weeks. Not a problem. My son's an attorney. He actually did it for us. This year we filed March 3rd, and here it is, August 1st is coming up this week, and we still don't have it. And we had to pay a lot of money to a high-powered immigration firm to try to get this pushed through. And nobody's got a drug issue or DWI or anything like that. They're just completely understaffed and overwhelmed. And a lot of it has to do with 90,000 federal employees took that $80,000 buyout, to
Mhm.
work early. And that affected a lot of people. The other problem is the people who do the work visas are part of the department that do the student visas. And you know what's going on with the student visas. They're canceling all of them. They're making a lot of these kids, re-up their student visas. So I got my fingers crossed that this tour that we start September 10th is going to happen. This law firm said they can make it happen. We'll see. I mean, we've paid triple what we normally pay for a work visa so far,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah, who
still
would have
don't have
thought?
it.
Hey, Jeff, so probably that's, the thing with immigration stuff probably is not a bigger problem other than security. I mean, security's got to be
No, no,
much bigger thing now than years ago, right?
well, I haven't realized we're always conscious about security, and we have beefed up security, whether it's making people go through when they come in to any event, they get wanded or they go through metal detectors. But to Bruce's point, there's a band that we've had a number of times that we could have booked this summer called the New Master Sounds. And a friend of mine went to see them in New York City at the bottom line, wishful thinking at the Blue Note last 2 weeks ago, and they said, "What do you think about coming back to Rochester? We'd love to have you come back." And he said, "We don't think we're going to get any more visas." He said,
Hmm.
they're from England, and the way they're looking at it right now, they're small, and they don't have the budget to talk
Yeah.
about to Bruce's point of spending a lot of money on lawyers and law firms and everything else. Who do you think is going to pay that? The
Hmm.
consumer, the ticket price is going to have to go up because they have to pass those costs on. So in terms of European groups coming in, I can't speak for the local jazz fest, but I know that there were issues bringing out of country bands in this year. So, make America great again. I don't want to get on any political issues, but there's great musicians all over the world that we have benefited from, and local musicians play with those musicians and collaborate with them. And that's a source. And guess what? If we're not going to let their country's musicians in, guess who's not going on tour from America into Europe and around the world? So it's going to be payback time.
You're
So,
absolutely right. Absolutely right.
so there's a certain
Well,
amount of short-sightedness going on that someday soon, hopefully, some people will start opening their eyes a little wider.
hmm. So, gentlemen, I'm not ready to wrap this up yet. I want to get into a retail section where we can sell some tickets for you guys. Jack, you have no tickets to sell in
I
Rochester. I
have no
know this.
tickets. Story of my life, guys. No. Um,
Well, you're
uh,
always sold out.
yeah. Well, let's see. Piggybacking off of what I said before, I recently did string arrangements for Todd East. I believe he's a entertainer back there and terrific singer. Blew me away when I heard his stuff, and I was asked to write strings for his latest album, which I did. I wrote the orchestral stuff, and it was a labor of love, I have to tell you. I did that, and what I'm working on at the moment, besides the TV shows, is I'm finally finishing a musical that I started. I'm embarrassed to tell you, I started it in 1995, and I'm anyway. I'm going to finish this. What hopefully would be a Broadway musical. Everybody's got to have a dream, right, guys? Anyway, I'm working on that with another guy from Rochester, actually, childhood friend Gary Verna. We've written this musical called Overboard. Anyway, working on that, and
No, 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 no. You got to go more than that. What's Overboard about?
ah, it takes place on a cruise ship in the late 50s on a cruise ship from Miami to Cuba when right before the revolution. And it's about the entertainers on the ship, guy and a girl. And the mob comes on, of course, got to have the mob. The mob comes on the boat and somebody's skimming money from the casinos in Cuba right before the revolution. And anyway, it's a musical. I have to tell you, I pulled it out the other day. Still makes me laugh, guys. That's a good sign. It still makes me laugh. So uh, one of the characters, for instance, is Tony the Toothpick, and he sings a song. You give them shoes, they walk all over you, which is something my father used to say. So anyway, I'm working. I'm working on that, guys. Having a good time.
Oh, that's great. Bruce, what do you got coming on and what dates?
Okay, well, so the one national group that I've had the most impact with is the ELP family, and that included Asia, the other group, and also I've worked with Yes and groups like that. But what I explained before we're doing with Emerson, Lake and Palmer is the two of the three guys passed away in the same year of different illnesses. Keith Emerson and Greg Lake, who were certified virtuosos. And we got approached to do a hologram tour. And we went and saw a couple of hologram shows. We didn't think they were very good. We saw the Frank Zappa one. We just said, it's kind of like this misty ghost on stage. We just didn't get it. So um, I came up with the idea I said, look, ELP owns everything. They own their publishing, all their masters, they own all their videos. Why don't we take the Royal Albert Hall sold out shows from the 90s and just take the cameras that were on Emerson and the cameras that were on Lake and put them on screens? And because we have separate audio tracks, we could mix it every night depending on the room. And Carl's on stage with two other musicians. They all play together. And we've now done about 75 shows. We got I don't know, at least another 60 coming up in the next 2 years. And we're going to be performing, it looks like it's not confirmed yet, but it looks like we're doing the Phoenix Symphony is going to do an Emerson, Lake and Palmer classical show. So we're waiting to hear more on that. So those are cool things. But the show is going to be in Rochester, September 10th. The
Coming right up.
Theater at Innovative Square,
Yeah.
which is where we played 2 years ago and sold it out. There's still some tickets left. It's an evening of Emerson, Lake and Palmer with Greg Lake singing, Keith Emerson playing keyboards, Carl obviously playing drums, two other musicians. So there's live musicians, there's musicians on screen. And it's a process. It's a lot of work, but we're doing really great now. I mean, it was a slow start, but now, we're selling a lot of tickets, so we're very excited about that. And the only other thing I have, about Dom is this female singer-songwriter named Sydney
Oh,
Irving, who I got signed to Deco, which is a Warner Brothers label, and her album's coming out in October. That's it right there, although it's going to have a different cover. And she's amazing. I describe her as Sheryl Crow meets
oh,
Tom Petty. She's
she's
amazing.
amazing. She's a very, very, very grounded young lady. I made, what did I make for you? I made salt and bokers on, or was it? It was
Yes,
bolognese
he fed
sauce. Yeah,
us. He
bolognese
fed us.
sauce. Her and her mother. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But she's from
yeah.
Central New York. She's from the Syracuse
Wonderful.
area.
Yeah,
Put a Rochester band together. A.D.
yeah,
Zimmer who played with Lou
yeah.
Graham
She's
and
great.
Billy Ebert and a guy named Tyler Norton, who's in a cover group called the M80s. And she got a great band. The record label's real excited about it. We got a Zoom with them tomorrow, and we are going to have a Rochester show in the fall. I'm not sure where it is going to be yet, but when it happens, and of course I'll be calling up Jeff Springut because I want to date with you.
Happy
But
to talk to you.
No, she really is extraordinary. Jeff, no, you got lots of stuff coming up. So let's go chronologically. Date. Okay,
Chronologically,
yeah.
the last two Party in the Parks of the season are August 7th and 14th. And on the 7th is two of my favorite performers. Hold on, I'm about to get interrupted. Hi, give me a couple of minutes, please. Thank you. As I said, I'm kind of working here at Party in the Park, so things
You
come up.
got it. You got it. I appreciate your time there, buddy.
So Andy Frasco is a guy who has played for us a number of times, and he's double billing with Shamar Allen and the UN. And these guys, these bands are, in my opinion, right now, the kings of engaging the audience. I can tell you for sure, Bruce and Dom, if you were here, you and listening to Shamar, you will be doing your weekend dance. That's all I can say. They're both a lot of fun. That's the next Thursday coming up. And then we close the series with Dom, one of your favorite bands, Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. And, we had them headlining last year a show, a three-head show with a couple other great bands out in Barrington, and we're bringing them back this year because they have a huge fan base in town, and they're sharing the bill with a fellow who's getting a ton of airplay on Sirius FM called Eddie 9 Volt. And Bruce, you should check this guy out. They're a good, they're a solid band, and they're one of the bands that is bubbling up. So that's the last 2 weeks of Party in the Park. And then on August 8 and 9, we've got Joe Russo's Almost Dead. Now, Joe Russo used to play with Phil Lesh and Bob Weir and has a lot of Grateful Dead experience with him. And he played last year one night at Barrington and sold out in 36 hours.
Wow.
So that's a popular band. And as I mentioned, he'll sell out Red Rocks for 1 or 2 nights. He'll sell out Saratoga Performing Arts Center. So it's a real thrill and an honor to have him playing here. Coming up also in Barrington at the amphitheater on the 15th, a Friday night, there's a real interesting band called the Dead South. They're a Canadian bluegrass band, but definitely with a twist. And that show is about half sold out now for a somewhat unknown band, although some people said, wow, I'm surprised you got them. I figured they'd be playing Darien Lake. So they're in somebody's eyes and ears. And on the 16th, Saturday, we're doing a local jam band show with 5 local bands from 3 in the afternoon till 10 at night. And then our last show of the season on September 6th is Green Sky Bluegrass with Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country and Railroad Earth. And if you're into that genre of music, they're great bands and a lot of fun. So that's what I've got. And then we'll take a little break and start up in the fall.
Well, I got to thank you guys for humoring me coming on this show. It's just a delight to know you. It's just I just love you guys. You're doing something for Rochester, for the community. You identify as Rochester guys, even if you've moved to LA. I mean, you're a Rochester guy.
Oh yeah.
And the incredible uh, culture of music that a lot of people are not aware of just adds to our quality of life here. It's funny because my next door neighbor, you got to look at this other site I have, um, rochesterhonors.org. It's just a concept that I'm working on now. But my neighbor next door moves in and he goes, "Wow, we have all this stuff here. It's got this and this and this and this. I didn't know this when I moved in here." Well, then your marketing stunk. Our marketing stunk, because we have all these things and people don't know about it. One of the things that we have is this wonderful tradition of music and the people that have come out of here. Man, I talk to Gene Cornish every day. Maybe sometimes he calls me 3 times a day. You used to stay at your house, right? Rock
Good
and
old
roll,
Gene.
yeah, rock, yeah, rock and not, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let's see. on Ed Sullivan 5 times. How many #1 hits? And then
Five number ones, but
I mean, it's just,
part
I
of the
mean,
problem
really.
is everybody gets their information from different sources. It used to be, well, just advertise on the radio and put an ad in the
Yeah, yeah,
local paper in the free time, and you kind
yeah,
of had it covered. Now it's all social media, and it's like who
yeah,
knows who's watching what. It's hard, but
yeah,
we social media has been pretty good to the classic rock bands that I've been involved with. So
yeah.
I will say that.
Well, hence my feeble attempt at Rochester Music Mafia. We got about 1,000 people so far. I want to get that. I want to get that up. But you when you take a look at like even this show, the Kodak call will hold what 2,500 people or something like that. So we're talking to at least maybe 7,500 people here. So I mean, some of those people are going to want to buy tickets, and some of those people, maybe don't care. But there you go. You got to try.
Well, if I could give one more plug, you can get tickets for the ELP shows at elptickets.com.
And you can get all the old or the prior no nonsense roundtable shows on no nonsense roundtable.com. With that, guys, thank you ever so much. This is going to be my first time. This is a video that's going to be on YouTube as well as the radio show this weekend. And again, thank you again. I am just absolutely honored that you guys spent some of your life with me. Thank you.
Thank
Pleasure.
you, Don.
Pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you guys later.
Take care.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Tune in every Saturday from 10 to 11 on News Radio Wham 1180. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.